Hi, my name is Kathy Myron, and today's tech tip is all about the mistakes that I often see small businesses make when it comes to their data protection and backups. Most business leaders understand the importance of having a set of data backups. If you've ever spilled coffee on your computer, you know what I'm talking about. But oftentimes in business, we find that some of the personal practices that people have used to protect their data and files over the course of however many years translate over or move over into the business world, but oftentimes not in a way that's going to protect that business from all potential forms of data loss. And so what do I really mean by that? Well, what we find is the most common method of data backup, for files at least, is some kind of file synchronization service. So that might be a OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox, any one of those big name tools that you're probably familiar with. Now, those are great to get a set of documents off of your laptop so that a second copy lives somewhere else if you spill the coffee, as I mentioned. But the challenge with something like this is that if you were to have any kind of malicious activity on your computer that corrupts or encrypts your files, so like ransomware, those encrypted files are also going to sync to the cloud. So while you may have some level of version history in that cloud, it's usually not something that you as a user can control. So the problem becomes if you have a malicious program that is editing all of the documents on your computer, encrypting them, changing them, deleting portions of them, whatever the case may be, you can very quickly exhaust all of the automatic version control that happens in these cloud systems and find yourself in a situation where you can only go back maybe 20 or 50 versions, and when you go back to pull the oldest version, it is still already corrupted. And I've had that happen to people, especially clients who might be on a nonprofit license or some other type of lower cost or lower tier user license. Oftentimes there are some limitations on the amount of version history that's kept. It's not unlimited, because as you can imagine, as documents change over time, those extra versions have to be stored by the cloud provider. And if you're on a free plan or not on one of their premium tiers, they're often going to be limiting that level of version history. And it's not very transparent to you as a user how many versions they will keep. So it's easy to bump up against those limits and then discover that something you want to recover is no longer there. So that's file sync tools. The other thing that I see a lot is if we were to look at most offices, whether you're doing this on a laptop or maybe you have a server, I'm going to draw one that is a desktop type server, but there are also ones that are kind of rack mounted. So, multiple servers living alongside each other in a big rack in a server closet. But anyways, one of the methods that is very common for backups is to take a local backup. So on a computer, that might look like a removable USB drive that gets attached. On a server, it might be something like a network connected NAS device with multiple hard drives inside. So we would call this NAS, network attached storage. But either way, it's a local copy of data that sits on the same network. So, in this example, all of these devices are all on the same physical network. So they all talk to each other. And you get one device that's infected with malware, right? Let's draw kind of our scary malware, right? So here, this guy got infected with malware and now has a ransom note on it. That malware can easily move from device to device, affecting and corrupting all of the available backups that you would have had. And then the last method that we often see for backups is, well, not often, not as much anymore, is when your server, right, maybe has a USB attached to it. This is kind of the easiest example. And on some kind of rotating schedule, maybe Monday, oh, you can't see that, let's see, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, somebody comes in and swaps this hard drive with another one. And so that employee takes this drive home on Monday, and on Tuesday, they bring in drive B and attach that to the server. And so every day, or sometimes it happens every week, not quite as often, but these drives are rotated. So we would call this a local backup with rotated drives. Rotated drives. Now, the beauty of a solution like this is that it does enable you to have offsite backups, but it's really cumbersome. Imagine, right, the person who's doing all of this for you is out sick one day or is on vacation or something else. And then this whole process falls down. And then you inevitably find that you don't have the offsite protection that you want. So the cloud file sync tools get you offsite protection. The local USB or NAS device will give you local protection. And then this type of a setup with rotated drives will give you both local and offsite protection. But the problem is that each one of these has its own flaws. So what you want to be doing instead is following something called the 3-2-1 rule. And the 3-2-1 rule means that you need at least 3 copies of your data. So that might be the version that sits on your server, right? So this is version number 1. Then it might be the USB drive or the NAS that you have attached. That might be version 2. And then the third copy is going to be a copy that lives out in the cloud, which is going to be version 3. You can't really see that, so there we go. So you've got 3 copies of data, right? So 3 copies on 2 different types of media, right? And so the media meaning, internal hard drives over here, external hard drives over here. Cloud would be a third type. There's a whole bunch of different types of storage media, but you want to have at least 2 different types of storage media with at least one of those off-site, can't spell, and off network. And so when you have a copy that is off-site, right, the cloud, and off network, it's on a completely separate network, you're reducing the likelihood that any single event, any kind of malware, any kind of fire or theft or flood or other damage is going to affect all of your copies. And so, this would be the best methodology to follow when it comes to backups and data protection. Now, the problem is that not all backups are created equal. So as we mentioned with the example of the cloud, this is a file synchronization service. So the only thing being backed up in this scenario are just files. So Word documents, Excel sheets, PDFs, things like that. When you have a more robust server environment, on each one of these servers, you're going to have a whole bunch of different things, right? You're going to have the operating system, you're going to have databases, you're going to have configuration settings, and then files. Files. And so what you want to make sure is that your method for backup doesn't just cover one of those couple of different types of data, but you need it to be encompassing of everything. And so the best way to ensure that is by something called a system image backup. This is what you want, is an image level backup that you can store in multiple places, have multiple copies, and have at least one of those off-site. And if you're not sure how to do all of this or how to map what you're currently doing to a new go-forward strategy, we would be more than happy to have a conversation with you and figure out how we can build something like that together.